And we are going to continue to see the revival of old powers: Russian power, Japanese power, German power. The Chinese have recently said that the time for China's rise is very, very close. China is projecting that by the year 2027, its military is going to be at a very advanced state. At least this is what they are intending. The Germans have huge plans for their military for the 2020s. Japan has projected that by the year 2027, they're going to have ready their own, pretty much independently made fighter jet. It's quite obvious what is taking place. The writing is on the wall, and the preparation for global conflict is here. It's happening. And thus, global conflict, scary as it is nigh. It is nigh, everyone. All those movies that we watched talking about the end of the world, all the films that we have watched about, living in a post-apocalyptic world, all the video games that we have played, from The Division to Metro, to a whole bunch of other video games that have illustrated a post-apocalyptic society. It's not all just fantasy. Not all that stuff is fantasy. There's reality to it. It's scary when we think about it. It is. But you see Syria. You see what happened to Syria from the years 2011 to now. You see what they have done to Syria. That's a microcosm of what's going to come for the rest of us. And that is horrifying. That is truly horrifying. But yet people aren't learning. People aren't learning a damn thing. People aren't learning anything. It's like watching people shopping, Like when if you guys are seeing the hand, yeah, this is what happens when you wrestle with a little puppy. You do a little hand wrestling with a puppy. The thing has teeth. Even though it's so small, it's like 10 weeks old or something, 14 weeks old. No, it's not 14. Like 10 weeks, 12 weeks old. Little bastard has teeth, man. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. It's like watching people shop, It's like you go to the store and people are buying like 3 tomatoes and a bunch of TV dinners. It's like people, even in their own daily lives, they don't really think about what they need to buy for the future. It's not just buying your food for the day. You should be buying your food for the years. People are like, oh yeah, I hear people say, when this COVID thing is over, when it's over, it's gonna be great, guys. Yeah, right. COVID, people say COVID was made in a lab. I've heard that many times, and there's actually some serious evidence to back this up. It's not just some pie in the sky conspiracy. The fact that coronaviruses that are found in the wild, they only infect bats. And the ones that are found in the wild, they are primarily found in bat caves in an area of China called Yunnan. And Yunnan is nowhere near Wuhan, where the COVID outbreak began. And if you look at where the COVID outbreak began in Wuhan, it just so happened to be in a spot not too far away from a lab where people were messing with this stuff. And people are wondering, like, well, if it was made in a lab, what was the purpose? What was the purpose? And if I had to come up with a conspiracy theory for this, if I had to guess what the conspiracy was behind COVID, this is what I'm going to say. My guess is that they wanted this COVID thing to come out so that they could radicalize the world, so that they could accelerate the world to ideological insanity. Because we were already at that state. I mean, let's be honest here. We were already at the state of craziness before COVID popped up. We just needed a little push. We just needed a little extra help to get even crazier. Because before COVID popped up, what we were talking about, my English is just, I'm reading too much foreign news. What were we talking about all the time before COVID? We were talking about QAnon, and we were talking about a secret cabal of pedophiles who are conspiring to overthrow Trump, and Trump was fighting against the cabal. He was fighting against the secret elites that we have never really seen. We were hearing about all that stuff. We were hearing about Democrat conspiracies. We were hearing about, man, it's been so, it feels like 2019 was like forever ago. But it just seems like it was, at the same time, it feels like it was just last month that we were in March and we were just beginning this lockdown thing. But yeah, we were already on the verge of craziness. We were talking about immigration all the time. We were talking about caravans. We were talking about migrants from Central America invading the United States, and people were talking as if it was some kind of war. We were talking about well, we were talking a lot about Jeffrey Epstein, right? But that was real. That wasn't a conspiracy. But we were politically extremely polarized. And then COVID happened, and they told all of us to stay home. They told all of us that we were grounded. You have to stay home, everyone. You have to stay home. That's it. So we were stuck at home, and at first it was like, oh, this is fun, Then that bank account started getting reduced, right? And then things started to get a little desperate. People began to feel a little desperate, and people got on the edge. And then George Floyd happened, and that video came out, and people just exploded. People exploded. The left exploded. And we saw the power of the left in the George Floyd demonstrations and in the riots. We saw the power of the left. The left is very powerful in this country, and we saw the manifestation of that influence in those riots that exploded in the summer of 2020. And then we begin to see the building up of right-wing rage. And you had the anti-lockdown demonstrations done by the right wing, and that was led to a great extent by the QAnon movement. And we saw the same thing going on in Germany. A lot of the anti-lockdown protests in Germany were being led by people following the QAnon cult on the internet. And so the anti-lockdown protests and demonstrations were merely a sign of how the COVID lockdowns were psychologically pushing us further and further into political fanaticism, anti-establishment sentiment. And the Pepe the Frog movement just popped up again with a vengeance. And the right wing was building up and building up and building up. And soon all of those crazy websites that we kept hearing about, all of those crazy right-wing forums that we kept hearing about, all of that bent up anger that we kept hearing about, all of that rage, that right-wing rage that we kept hearing about was building up and building up and building up and building up, and bam, it exploded. It exploded in January of 2021 when they raided the Capitol building. So we are getting crazier and crazier by the day, and people are acting like, well, when this COVID thing is over, I'm like, listen, the COVID thing was just a catalyst. It was a catalyst that helped to accelerate things further. The craziness of the after effects of COVID are going to be here, and we are going to have to go through a virus far, far worse than any virus made in a lab or found in baths. We are going to have to go through the human virus of evil, of rage, of violence, of avarice. And that is going to be far worse than any virus. I mean, a virus is, okay, I put a mask on, stay home, stay away from people as much as possible, keep your distance, wash your hands, don't touch your face. I mean, anyone can follow these rules. And in a way, I'm glad that people are washing their hands. For the first time that I have been alive, I have seen Americans now washing their hands with soap in the public bathrooms. Before COVID, nobody was washing their hands with soap. This is how Americans were washing their hands before COVID. Turn the faucet on. Oh, I'm done. That's how Americans were washing their hands. Now with COVID, everyone's washing their hands with soap, and I'm just like, well, this is great. This is a step forward in the right direction. But with the human virus, we can't just wash our hands. We have to make sure that we can protect ourselves. And I think this is really the reason. I would say this is really the most important reason for the Second Amendment. I'm not worried about Nancy Pelosi breaking into my house. I'm not worried about Chuck Schumer or Fauci coming into my house. I'm worried about civilians. I'm worried about people. And yeah, I'm going to stop there because this video has been long enough. But anyway, yeah, those are my thoughts for today on this subject. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Hope you guys have learned something from this message. You guys just heard some theology. God bless.